Hi, my name's Janet and I'm the Technical Officer at Sydney College of the Arts, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a registration for screen printing. First of all, what you'll need is a screen that's been coated with emulsion, and you will need a sheet of acetate. You will be using your acetate to register onto before you print onto your paper. Then you will need your ink that you'll be printing with. You'll also need a spatula to be able to get the ink out of the container and put it onto your screen mesh. You'll need a roll of masking tape. You'll need a triangle that will help you chalk up your screen when you're not printing. You'll need a really good squeegee that's nice and smooth, that has no bits of dry ink on it that could possibly put a hole into your screen. You'll also need some little bits of cardboard. These are for cleaning up at the end, but they're also for helping you make a spring on your screen so that you're not printing flat onto the table. We usually use about 2 of these, one on each side of your screen, and we mask them onto the screen. For that, we grab some masking tape. We join 2 pieces of card together, and determining which is the bottom of your screen, you will place them on the outside of your screen using the masking tape to stick them down. You will put one on the other side as well. Turn your screen over, and using the clamps that are already on the table, you will push your screen into them so that you can clamp your screen into position. Tighten the clamp down onto the screen, making sure that there is no movement in your screen. If you lift your screen and give it a slight jiggle and there is no movement, it means that your screen is clamped in properly. If it's moving slightly, just tighten it again. You don't want any movement there, otherwise your registration won't be correct. Once you've done that, you can lift your screen up. Using your triangle, chalk your screen, and then with your acetate, you're going to place that onto the table using your masking tape. Take a line of masking tape and you place that straight onto your acetate that will go onto the table. You're adhering the acetate to the table just from one end. Pull the acetate back towards yourself and you will put a second layer onto the acetate to really secure it. Take that down. You now need to make a loop of masking tape that will sit at the top of your acetate, and that will help stick the acetate to the table when you're printing to get it in the right position. Lift your acetate up. With your masking tape, you place it on the end and then stick that down to the table, making sure that your acetate is nice and flush to the bench. Pushing it out with your hand to make sure that it is nice and flat. You can now move away your wooden chalk. You can check the bounce on your screen to see if it is enough just by pressing in the centre. If it bounces back, it means that you've got a good spring, which means that I have enough pieces of cardboard at the end to allow that support. Next, I'm ready for my ink. With your ink, you can check the consistency of it before you print. If it is not smooth enough, you can change the consistency by adding a small amount of retarder, just a couple of drops, or you can add some Lascaux product to it, which will help it become smooth. With the spatula, make sure your ink is mixed really well and make sure there are definitely no lumps in there. If you have lumps, this will impede your printing process. Those lumps won't be able to push through the screen and you won't get a good print. With your spatula, you will add the ink to the screen at the top of the image. You don't want your ink to go onto the image, it's sitting just above it. Place a really good amount of ink on there and spread it evenly across the top. You want to make sure that you've got enough ink that you're not going to run out halfway through printing that one pull. With your squeegee, hands on each end to give it good support, and you will be printing at a 45-degree angle. You grab your ink with the squeegee and pull firmly at that 45-degree angle towards yourself. Once you have pulled that through, you lift your screen slightly, and we're now going to do what's called a flood coat, where we push the ink back onto the mesh, and that will stop the ink from drying out when we're in the process of checking our registration and putting paper down. Drop off the excess ink on the squeegee. Chock your squeegee back up with the little triangle, and now we have a print on the acetate. When you're printing, you need to make sure that you've got a good area to hold your paper, usually below where you're printing from. With your first layer of printing, always make sure that every piece of paper is cut to exactly the same size. That way you'll get good registration. Your printing paper with your first layer of ink on it should be below you. We place that underneath the acetate. And with the acetate, with the printer on it, this is where you can determine where your print should sit. So by holding the acetate flush against the table, you move your piece of paper into position so that you're printing to get the second layer of colour down. You can take your time with this because you've flooded your screen, which is stopping it from drying out. Once your paper's in position, you then pull back the acetate. With the loop that you've made, you can hold that against the table, like so, or if you are more comfortable, you can just let it drop to the floor. Place your screen back down onto the piece of paper. Once again, hands on each end of the squeegee, 45-degree angle, and pulling the ink firmly towards yourself. Lift the screen, making sure that the paper isn't stuck to the screen, and then you can flood coat. So pushing the ink back across the mesh. Drop the excess from the squeegee. Chock your screen back up with your triangle, and then you have your print. Your print will get placed on the rack to dry. Once you've finished printing all your prints or your edition, it's best then to run the excess ink off onto a scrap piece of paper so that you're not washing any excess ink down our drains. Remove your chalk with your squeegee, run the ink through again just onto a standard piece of paper. Pick up the excess ink onto your squeegee, chalk your screen back up, and now I just have a print on another piece of paper that I might be able to use for later on. Now with my excess ink, I need to remove that from the squeegee and the screen and put it back into the container. That can be used again for another image, or you can pass it on to someone else who might want your colour. Remove as much ink as you possibly can. You're removing your ink with bits of cardboard that were used at the beginning. You might find it easier to remove your screen from the clamps to be able to get the ink off the screen. So you loosen the clamps, take out your screen carefully, and again with your bit of cardboard, you scrape the excess ink back into the container. That piece of cardboard can go in the bin. Turning your screen flat onto the table, you remove the corner cardboard pieces that you used as your spring, and they can be reused again. Remove the masking tape and remove the masking tape from your screen. You don't want to leave the masking tape on your screen as it will end up in the drain in the sink and can clog the sink. Your screen can then be taken to the sink to be washed. Remove any bits of masking tape from the table. Pull your sheet of acetate back onto the table. Now you can clean your acetate on the table using a wet sponge, or you can take it to the washroom to be cleaned there. Also make sure you remove any masking tape from your sheet of acetate. Also make sure that you clean your spatula when you wash your squeegee and your screen. Always put the lid back on the ink so that can be used again later. With the acetate and your image on there, you can take it off just with a wet sponge and a bucket of water. Thanks for watching this demonstration on registration for screen printing.